Ashley stared in disbelief as the HOA president slapped the violation notice on her front door. Keeping bees on her own property was now illegal. After years of growing her precious garden, she wasn't about to let some power-hungry busybodies destroy everything she'd worked for. This was war. Ashley slammed her fist against the oak door, nearly splintering the wood. "Open up, Bradley. I know you're in there." The HOA president cowered behind the curtains, avoiding her piercing gaze. Fuming, Ashley stormed back to her beloved beehive, the source of her recent $500 fine. Hundreds of honeybees buzzed around the wooden structure, busy pollinating her vibrant flowers and thriving vegetable patch. This was no nuisance. It was a sanctuary for these crucial creatures. "I won't let them do this," she muttered, gently caressing the hive. The bees sensed her distress, their collective hum shifting to a more agitated tone. "I'll fight this to the bitter end." Just then, the sound of Bradley's front door creaking open made Ashley's blood boil. She spun around to see the portly HOA president waddling towards her, his expression that of a scolding schoolmaster. "Ashley, you've been warned." Bradley's voice dripped with condescension. "The rules are clear. No beekeeping on residential properties. This is your final notice before we take legal action." "Legal action?" Ashley scoffed. "You can't be serious. These bees are vital to my garden, not to mention the entire ecosystem. Didn't you get the memo? The state just declared my property an official environmental preserve." Bradley's smug smile faded. That's impossible." "Oh, it's very possible." Ashley crossed her arms, a triumphant grin spreading across her face. "I've got the paperwork right here." She pulled a thick envelope from her jacket pocket and waved it in Bradley's face. "This means your precious HOA has no jurisdiction over my land anymore. So take your fine and shove it." The portly man's face turned beet red as he snatched the envelope from her hands, frantically flipping through the documents. His expression shifted from outrage to sheer panic as the reality of the situation dawned on him. "You can't do this," he spluttered. "This is an outrage. I won't allow it." Ashley merely arched an eyebrow. "Oh, but you will. See, I've also got a nice little chat scheduled with the local news stations. They'll be quite interested to hear about how the HOA president tried to strong-arm an environmentally protected property." She leaned in, her voice dripping with venom. "So I'd suggest you pack up your things and find somewhere else to flex your control freak muscles." Bradley's chins quivered as he struggled to formulate a response. Defeated, he turned and scurried back to his house, slamming the door behind him. Ashley watched him go, a triumphant smile on her lips. "That's what I thought," she murmured, glancing fondly back at her beehive. The buzzing had returned to its usual soothing rhythm, and she knew her little friends were safe. For now, at least. But Ashley had a feeling this was only the beginning of her fight against the HOA's tyranny, and she was more than ready for the battle ahead. The next morning, Ashley awoke to find her driveway blocked by a large truck bearing the HOA's logo. Stepping outside, she was greeted by the sight of Bradley and several burly men carrying shovels and other tools. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, striding towards them. Bradley turned, a smug grin plastered across his face. "Good morning, Ms. Wilkins. We're here to remove that unsightly beehive of yours. Seems the state's little environmental designation doesn't apply to structures on your property." Ashley's eyes widened in horror. "You can't do that. Those bees are essential to my garden, and the hive is protected under the preserve." "Not according to our lawyers," Bradley sneered. "Your precious hive is considered a non-native structure that must be removed immediately. Now stand aside before we're forced to remove you as well." Panic rising in her chest, Ashley frantically tried to think of a way to stop them. "You can't just barge in here and destroy my property." "Oh. Yo what?" Bradley interrupted, his voice dripping with condescension. "Call the police. File another pointless lawsuit. Face it, Ashley, you're outmatched here. The HOA always gets its way in the end. With a nod to his men, Bradley turned and began striding towards the beehive. Adrenaline surging, Ashley darted in front of them, arms outstretched. "I won't let you do this," she cried. "These bees are my responsibility. I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy their home." One of the men, a burly fellow named Kurt, stepped forward menacingly. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to step aside. We've got a job to do, and we ain't leaving till it's done." Ashley stood her ground, her expression defiant. "I don't care what your job is. This hive stays, or you'll have to go through me first." Kurt's eyes narrowed, and he took another step forward. "Don't say I didn't warn you." Just then, a high-pitched buzzing filled the air, followed by the sudden appearance of hundreds of honeybees swarming around Ashley. The men froze, eyes wide with alarm. "What the—" Kurt began, but Ashley cut him off with a triumphant laugh. "Looks like my bees have a say in this too." She gestured towards the swarm, a gleam of determination in her eyes. "Now I suggest you all get off my property before they decide to get involved." Bradley's face had gone pale, and he quickly motioned for his men to retreat. "This isn't over, Wilkins," he spat, before turning and scurrying back to the truck. As the HOA contingent beat a hasty retreat, Ashley watched them go, a satisfied smile on her lips. But she knew this was only the beginning of her battle. The HOA was not going to give up that easily. Turning back to her beloved beehive, she gently stroked the wooden structure, murmuring words of reassurance to the buzzing inhabitants. "Don't worry, my friends. I won't let them take you away. This is your home, and I'll fight to the end to protect it." The bees seemed to sense her resolve, their hum shifting to a calmer, more content tone. Ashley took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battles to come. The HOA had no idea what they were up against. Later that day, Ashley sat at her kitchen table, poring over a stack of legal documents. The state's designation of her property as an environmental preserve was clear, but the HOA's claims about the beehive being a non-native structure had her concerned. "There has to be a way to protect my bees," she muttered, brow furrowed in concentration. "I can't let the HOA bully me into giving up." Just then, the sound of a car door slamming outside drew her attention. Peering through the window, she spotted a woman in a sharp pantsuit striding up her driveway. Recognizing the woman as Evelyn, a local environmental activist, Ashley hurried to the door. "Evelyn, what a pleasant surprise. What brings you by?" The woman offered a warm smile. "Hello, Ashley. I heard about your little run-in with the HOA and wanted to lend my support. May I come in?" Ashley ushered her inside, grateful for the unexpected visit. "Of course, please make yourself at home. Can I get you some coffee or tea?" "No, thank you. I'm afraid I don't have much time to spare." Evelyn took a seat at the kitchen table, her expression turning serious. "I've reviewed the documents you sent over, and I have to say, I'm quite impressed. The state has really gone all out to protect your property." Ashley nodded, her fingers drumming anxiously on the tabletop. "Yes, but the HOA is claiming the beehive is a non-native structure that has to be removed. I'm not sure how to counter that argument." Evelyn's brow furrowed. That's a tricky one. Technically, the hive is a man-made structure, but it's serving a vital ecological function on your land." She leaned back in her chair, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "Tell me, does the preserve designation specifically mention the beehive?" "No, it doesn't," Ashley admitted. "It just covers the overall property and its native plant and animal life." "Aha, there's your loophole." Evelyn leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "If the preserve doesn't explicitly reference the hive, then the HOA has no legal grounds to demand its removal. It's part of the protected ecosystem, just like the bees themselves." A spark of hope ignited in Ashley's chest. You really think that could work? Absolutely. Evelyn nodded emphatically. All we need to do is get a formal legal opinion that solidifies the hive's status as an integral part of your property's protected environment. That should shut down the HOA's nonsense once and for all. Ashley let out a relieved sigh, tension draining from her shoulders. That's wonderful news. I can't thank you enough, Evelyn. I was starting to feel so overwhelmed, but now I finally see a path forward. Don't mention it. Evelyn reached across the table, giving Ashley's hand a gentle squeeze. I'm just glad I could help. The bees and their habitats are crucial to our entire ecosystem, and I'll be damned if I let some power-hungry HOA destroy that. Ashley felt a surge of affection for the woman, grateful to have such a passionate ally in her corner. So, what's the next step? Well, the first thing we need to do is get that formal legal opinion I mentioned. Evelyn stood, smoothing her hands over her pristine pantsuit. I have the perfect environmental lawyer in mind. Let me make a few calls, and I'll set up a meeting for us. That would be amazing, Ashley said, rising to see her visitor out. Thank you, again, for everything. Evelyn flashed her a warm smile. Of course, this is just the beginning, my friend. I have a feeling the HOA is in for one hell of a fight. As Evelyn strode back to her car, Ashley watched her go, a renewed sense of determination filling her. With Evelyn's help, she was confident she could protect her beloved beehive and the precious ecosystem it supported. The HOA had no idea what they were up against. The next day, Ashley sat across from a stern-faced environmental lawyer named Dominic Baylor. Evelyn had arranged the meeting, and the three of them were huddled in Dominic's cramped but cozy office. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here, Dominic said, rifling through the stack of documents Ashley had provided. His brow furrowed as he carefully reviewed the state's designation of her property as an environmental preserve. After what felt like an eternity, Dominic leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Well, I have to say, you've got a pretty airtight case here, Ms. Wilkins. Ashley felt a surge of hope. So the HOA has no legal ground to demand the removal of my beehive. Dominic shook his head. Not at all. The preserve designation clearly covers the entire property, including any native flora and fauna. And since your beehive is an integral part of the local ecosystem, it falls under the protected status. Evelyn leaned forward, eyes gleaming. That's exactly what I thought. The HOA is grasping at straws with this non-native structure nonsense. Precisely. Dominic nodded. They've got no legal precedent to back up their claims. In fact, I'd argue that removing the beehive would be a direct violation of the preserve's terms. Ashley let out a relieved sigh, tension draining from her shoulders. That's such a relief to hear. I was so worried they'd find a way to force me to get rid of my bees. Not a chance. Dominic's expression turned serious. This is an open and shut case. If the HOA tries to interfere with your property again, you'll have a solid legal foundation to fight back. Thank you, both of you, Ashley said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I would have done without your help. Evelyn reached across the table, giving Ashley's hand a gentle squeeze. That's what friends are for. And trust me, this is just the beginning. We're going to make sure the HOA leaves you and your bees alone for good. Ashley nodded, a determined glint in her eye. Well, they'd better be ready for a fight, because that's exactly what they're going to get. As the meeting concluded, Ashley and Evelyn stepped out into the bright afternoon sunlight, a newfound sense of confidence buoying their steps. So, what's our next move? Ashley asked, turning to her friend. Evelyn grinned. I say we pay a little visit to the HOA president and give him a friendly reminder of the legal trouble he's in for messing with you. Ashley couldn't help but chuckle. I like the way you think. Let's do it. Hand in hand, the two women strode towards Evelyn's car, ready to take the fight directly to the HOA. Bradley and his cronies had no idea what was about to hit them. Ashley and Evelyn pulled up to the HOA president's house, a sense of purpose and determination filling the air. As they approached the front door, Evelyn turned to Ashley, her expression grave. "Now remember, we want to keep this civil. We're here to inform, not to threaten." She paused, a mischievous glint in her eye. "But if he tries to pull any of his usual nonsense, I won't be afraid to get a little more assertive." Ashley couldn't help but chuckle. "Duly noted. Let's do this." Evelyn nodded and strode up to the door. Ashley closed behind. She rang the bell and waited, squaring her shoulders. A moment later, the door cracked open, and Bradley's beady eyes peered out. Upon seeing the two women, his expression quickly shifted to one of annoyance. "What do you want?" he grumbled. "Good afternoon, Bradley," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Mind if we come in? We have some important matters to discuss." Bradley hesitated, his gaze darting between the two women. Finally, with a grudging sigh, he opened the door wider and gestured them inside. "Fine, but make it quick. I've got a lot of work to do." Evelyn swept past him, Ashley trailing behind. Once they were in the living room, Evelyn turned to face the HOA president, her expression hardening. "Actually, Bradley, this is going to take a bit more time than you might like. You see, we're here to discuss your little conflict with Ashley and her beehive." Bradley's face immediately darkened. "There's nothing to discuss. That hive is a violation of our bylaws, and it's going to be removed, one way or another." "Oh, I think there's quite a bit to discuss," Evelyn countered, her voice sharp. "Specifically, the fact that Ashley's property has been designated as an official environmental preserve by the state." Bradley's eyes widened, and he took a step back. "What? That's impossible." "Oh, it's very possible," Evelyn said, her tone dripping with triumph. "And it means that your precious HOA bylaws no longer apply to Ashley's land. Trying to remove that beehive would be a direct violation of the preserve's terms." Bradley opened and closed his mouth several times, a fish out of water. But the lawyers said. "Your lawyers are wrong," Evelyn interrupted, her gaze unwavering. "We've got the legal documentation to prove it. And if you so much as set foot on Ashley's property again, you'll be facing some very serious consequences." Ashley watched the exchange, her heart racing. She had never seen Evelyn so forceful and commanding, and it was a sight to behold. "You can't do this," Bradley finally sputtered, his face turning bright red. "This is an outrage. I won't stand for it." "Oh, but you will," Evelyn said, her voice low and dangerous. "Because if you don't, we'll be sure to let the entire neighborhood know exactly what kind of underhanded tactics you've been using to try and bully Ashley. And believe me, they won't be happy about it." Bradley's shoulders slumped, the fight visibly draining from him. "This isn't over," he muttered, his gaze darting between the two women. "Oh, but it is," Evelyn said, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "For now, at least. I'd suggest you start packing up your little HOA office and find something more productive to do with your time." With that, Evelyn turned on her heel and swept out of the house, Ashley trailing behind her. As they reached the car, Ashley couldn't help but throw a look over her shoulder, a grin spreading across her face. "That was amazing," she said, her voice awed. "I've never seen someone put Bradley in his place like that." Evelyn chuckled, a mischievous glint in her eye. "What can I say? I've had a lot of practice dealing with power-hungry bureaucrats like him. And when it comes to protecting the environment, I don't mess around." Ashley reached out and squeezed her friend's hand, a surge of gratitude and affection filling her heart. "Thank you, Evelyn. I don't know what I'd do without you." Evelyn smiled warmly. "That's what friends are for. Now let's get back to your place and make sure those bees are doing all right. I have a feeling they're going to need all the support they can get in the days to come." As they drove away, Ashley couldn't help but feel a sense of relief and optimism. With Evelyn by her side, she knew she could take on the HOA and win, and she was more determined than ever to protect her beloved bees and the precious ecosystem they were a part of. Over the next few days, Ashley and Evelyn's triumphant visit to the HOA president's house had the desired effect. The constant harassment and threats from the HOA suddenly ceased, leaving Ashley with a newfound sense of peace and security. However, her relief was short-lived as she soon discovered that the HOA was not about to give up without a fight. One morning, as she stepped outside to tend to her garden, she was greeted by the sight of a large, imposing fence being erected around the perimeter of her property. What in the world? Ashley hurried over to the workman, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Sorry, ma'am, but we've been instructed to install this boundary fence," one of the men replied, his tone apologetic. "It's for the protection of the environmental preserve, or so we've been told." Ashley's heart sank as the realization dawned on her. The HOA. They're trying to cut me off from my own land. The man nodded grimly. "Looks that way. We're just following orders, but I can tell you it don't sit right with me." Anger and frustration welled up inside Ashley, and she clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. "Well, I'm not going to stand for it. This is my property, and I won't let them fence me out." Without another word, she turned and stormed back into the house, her mind racing. She needed to call Evelyn to get her legal expertise and support. But as she reached for the phone, a plan began to take shape in her mind. Quickly, she grabbed a pen and paper and began scribbling furiously. If the HOA wanted to play dirty, then she would fight fire with fire. And this time, she was determined to win. Within an hour, Ashley had assembled a small team of volunteers, fellow environmentalists and concerned neighbors who had heard about her plight. Together, they gathered tools, building materials, and a resolute determination to take back what was rightfully hers. As the fence-building crew returned the next day, they were met with a wall of defiance. Ashley and her team had already erected their own barrier, a sturdy wooden structure that mirrored the HOA's fence, but with one crucial difference. It was entirely within the boundaries of the environmental preserve. "What is the meaning of this?" the foreman demanded, his face turning red with fury. Ashley stepped forward, her expression calm and unyielding. "This is my property, and this fence is here to stay. You're not going to cut me off from my own land, not on my watch." The foreman sputtered, his eyes darting between Ashley and the new fence. But the HOA ordered us to install this boundary. You can't just." "I can, and I have," Ashley interrupted, her voice firm. "This land is protected by the state, and your fencing plan clearly violates the terms of the preserve. If you try to remove my fence, you'll be the ones facing legal action." The foreman's shoulders slumped, and he exchanged a defeated glance with his crew. "Damn it. The boss ain't gonna like this." "That's not my problem," Ashley replied, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "Now, I suggest you pack up your equipment and get off my property. You're not welcome here anymore." With grumbled curses, the crew reluctantly gathered their tools and retreated, leaving Ashley and her team standing proudly beside their new fence. The buzzing of the beehive seemed to grow louder, as if the bees themselves were celebrating the victory. As Evelyn arrived on the scene, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Well, I'll be damned. You really showed them, didn't you?" Ashley grinned, her eyes sparkling with a newfound confidence. "You bet I did, and this is just the beginning. The HOA has no idea what they're up against." Evelyn draped an arm around her friend's shoulders, a gleam of pride in her eyes. "That's my girl. Now, let's make sure those bees of yours are safe and sound. I have a feeling we're going to need their help in the battles to come." In the days that followed, Ashley and her team of volunteers worked tirelessly to fortify their makeshift fence, ensuring that it was sturdy enough to withstand any attempts by the HOA to dismantle it. Evelyn, true to her word, had enlisted the help of a skilled legal team to provide additional support and guidance. The battle lines had been drawn, and both sides were digging in for a prolonged fight. The HOA, seething with rage and humiliation, had responded by stepping up their campaign of intimidation, bombarding Ashley with cease and desist letters and threatening to take her to court. But Ashley remained undaunted, drawing strength from the knowledge that she was on the right side of the law. With Evelyn and her legal team by her side, she was confident that they could weather any storm the HOA tried to throw their way. One particularly tense afternoon, as Ashley was tending to her garden, she heard the distinctive rumble of an engine approaching. Glancing up, she was greeted by the sight of a large, imposing tow truck bearing the HOA's insignia. "Oh, no you don't," she muttered, rushing towards the gate. Sure enough, the truck was attempting to breach the fence, its driver eyeing the structure with a predatory gleam. "Hold it right there," Ashley shouted, stepping in front of the vehicle. "This is private property, and you have no right to be here." The driver, a burly man with a scowl, sneered at her. "That's where you're wrong, sweetheart. This land belongs to the HOA, and we're here to remove that illegal fence of yours." Ashley stood her ground, her expression defiant. "I've got the legal paperwork that says otherwise. If you try to touch that fence, you'll be the ones facing serious consequences." The driver chuckled, a menacing glint in his eyes. "Yeah? And who's going to stop us? You and your little band of tree-huggers." Before Ashley could respond, a familiar voice rang out from behind her. "That would be us." Evelyn strode forward, flanked by a group of burly, no-nonsense-looking men. Ashley couldn't help but feel a surge of relief and pride at the sight of her friend. "Evelyn," the driver said, his voice laced with uncertainty. "What's the meaning of this?" "The meaning is simple," Evelyn replied, her tone icy. "This property and everything on it are protected by state law. If you so much as lay a finger on that fence, you'll be facing trespassing charges and a hefty lawsuit." The driver's eyes widened, and he glanced nervously at his companions. But the HOA. "The HOA has no authority here," Evelyn interrupted, her voice dripping with contempt. "Now, I suggest you turn that truck around and get off this land before we're forced to take more drastic measures." The driver hesitated for a moment, then slowly began to reverse the truck. As it disappeared down the road, Ashley let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Evelyn, you're a lifesaver," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. Evelyn flashed her a warm smile. "That's what friends are for. And trust me, we're just getting started. The HOA has no idea what's coming their way." Ashley nodded, a newfound determination burning in her chest. "Then let's show them what we're made of. It's time to take the fight to their doorstep." With Evelyn and her team of allies by her side, Ashley knew that the battle was far from over. But she was more resolute than ever to protect her beloved bees and the precious ecosystem they called home. The HOA had met its match, and the war was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, the battle between Ashley and the HOA escalated to new heights. Buoyed by the legal support from Evelyn's team, Ashley had gone on the offensive, publicly challenging the HOA's tactics and garnering the support of the local community. The HOA, on the other hand, had grown increasingly desperate and vindictive. They had tried every trick in the book to undermine Ashley's efforts, from filing frivolous lawsuits to launching a smear campaign in the local media. But Ashley, with Evelyn by her side, refused to back down. She knew that the fate of her beloved bees and the entire ecosystem hung in the balance, and she was more determined than ever to emerge victorious. One particularly tense day, as Ashley was tending to her garden, she heard the sound of a car pulling up to her property. Glancing up, she was surprised to see the HOA president, Bradley, striding towards her, his face a mask of fury. "All right, Wilkins, enough is enough," he bellowed, his jowls quivering. "You've made a fool of me for the last time. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. Ashley straightened, her expression calm and resolute. I'm not the one making a fool of you, Bradley. That's all on you and your misguided attempts to undermine me. Misguided? Bradley scoffed, his eyes narrowing. This is my neighborhood, and I won't let some tree-hugging hippie like you destroy everything I've worked for. Ashley opened her mouth to retort, but before she could, a familiar voice interrupted. I'm afraid you're the one who's mistaken, Bradley. Evelyn strode onto the scene, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. This land is protected by the state, and your little HOA has no authority here. Any further attempts to interfere with Ashley's property will be met with swift legal action. Bradley's face turned an alarming shade of purple. You can't do this. I won't let you win. Evelyn's lips curled into a sardonic smile. Oh, but we already have. And you know it. She gestured towards the beehive, its buzzing a soothing backdrop to the tense confrontation. Those bees and their home are here to stay, whether you like it or not. Bradley opened and closed his mouth several times, like a fish gasping for air. Finally, he let out a frustrated growl and turned on his heel, storming back to his car. As he peeled out of the driveway, Ashley and Evelyn exchanged a triumphant look. That was incredible, Ashley said, her voice filled with awe. I've never seen him so flustered. Evelyn chuckled, her expression both proud and relieved. He deserved every bit of it. The HOA's reign of terror is finally over, thanks to you and your little bee friends. Ashley reached out and pulled Evelyn into a tight hug, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for everything. Evelyn returned the embrace, a warm smile on her face. You're welcome, my friend. Now, let's go check on those bees of yours. I have a feeling they're going to be buzzing with the news of our victory. As the two women walked back towards the beehive, the sound of the bees seemed to grow louder, as if they too were celebrating the end of the HOA's tyranny. Ashley knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where her beloved bees and the entire ecosystem they represented would be protected and cherished. With Evelyn by her side, Ashley was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The HOA had finally met its match, and the balance of power had shifted in favor of the bees, the environment, and the unwavering spirit of those who fought to defend them.